10 countries where tourists are not always welcomed with open arms. Imagine landing in a new country, excited to explore, camera in hand, ready to experience a new culture. But instead of smiles and warm welcomes, you're met with strict rules, uncomfortable stares, or even restrictions that limit where you can go and what you can do. Sounds surprising, right? Because when we think about travel, we usually imagine friendly locals, open cultures, and unforgettable experiences. Social media often shows us the best parts, beautiful landscapes, luxury hotels, and perfect moments. But here's the reality most travel videos don't tell you: not every country is equally welcoming to tourists. Some countries have strict government policies, others have deep cultural expectations, and in some cases, political tensions or social differences can make visitors feel out of place. Now, this doesn't mean these countries are bad or not worth visiting. In fact, many of them are among the most fascinating places on Earth. But understanding the reality before you go can completely change your experience, from confusion and frustration to confidence and respect. So in today's video, we're going to explore 10 countries where tourists are not always welcomed with open arms, and more importantly, the real reasons behind it. Make sure you stay until the end, because the final countries on this list might completely change how you think about international travel. North Korea. Let's start with one of the most restricted countries in the world. Traveling to North Korea is unlike visiting any other destination on Earth. From the moment you arrive, your entire journey is carefully controlled. Tourists are not allowed to move freely. Instead, every step of your trip is guided by government-approved officials who accompany you at all times. Even simple activities, like taking photos, visiting locations, or interacting with locals, are strictly regulated. For many travelers, this creates a feeling that they are not truly visiting the country, but rather observing it under controlled conditions. This doesn't mean tourists are treated badly, but the environment makes it clear that tourism here operates under a completely different system. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has recently opened its doors to international tourism, but it remains a country deeply rooted in tradition and cultural values. For visitors, this means that understanding and respecting local customs is extremely important. Dress codes, public behavior, and social interactions follow cultural guidelines that may feel unfamiliar to many travelers. Those who are unaware of these expectations may feel uncomfortable or out of place. However, travelers who approach the country with respect often discover a rich culture, historical landmarks, and a unique travel experience. Russia. Russia is a country full of history, architecture, and cultural depth, but it can sometimes feel challenging for tourists. Language barriers are one of the biggest difficulties, as English is not widely spoken in many areas. In addition, visa procedures and political tensions can make travel feel more complicated than expected. Some travelers also report that locals may appear distant or less expressive compared to other countries. But in reality, much of this comes down to cultural differences rather than unfriendliness. China. China is one of the most visited countries in the world, yet it can feel overwhelming for first-time visitors. The country operates differently in many ways, from internet restrictions to language differences and unique social systems. Popular apps and websites used globally may not work, and communication can sometimes be a challenge. This can create a feeling of isolation for tourists who are not prepared. However, those who take time to understand the environment often find China to be incredibly rewarding. Iran. Iran presents an interesting contrast. On one hand, it is known for having some of the most hospitable people in the world. Many travelers report incredibly warm interactions with locals. On the other hand, strict government regulations and international political tensions can make travel more complex. Visitors must follow specific rules, and certain nationalities may face additional restrictions. This combination can create a mixed experience for tourists. Bhutan takes a completely different and very unique approach when it comes to tourism, And this is exactly what makes it stand out from almost every other country in the world. Unlike destinations that aim to attract millions of visitors every year, Bhutan has made a conscious decision to limit the number of tourists entering the country. This is not because tourists are not welcome, but because the country wants to protect its culture, traditions, and natural environment from the negative effects of mass tourism. To visit Bhutan, travelers are usually required to book their trip through approved tour operators and pay a daily sustainable development fee, which covers accommodation, transportation, and guides. For many people, this process can feel restrictive or expensive, especially when compared to other countries where you can travel freely and plan your own itinerary. Bhutan measures its success not just through economic growth, but through something called gross national happiness. This concept focuses on the well-being of its people, cultural preservation, and environmental sustainability. So while Bhutan may not feel open in the traditional tourism sense, it is actually one of the most thoughtfully protected travel destinations in the world. France is often seen as one of the most iconic travel destinations on the planet, attracting millions of tourists every single year. From world-famous landmarks to rich history, art, and cuisine, it's a country that appears on almost every traveler's bucket list. However, despite its popularity, many tourists report feeling that the experience is not always as welcoming as they expected. But why does this happen? In many cases, it comes down to cultural expectations and communication styles. In France, especially in major cities, locals often expect a certain level of politeness and effort from visitors, such as greeting people properly or attempting to speak a few basic words in French. When tourists ignore these small cultural norms, it can sometimes lead to interactions that feel cold or distant. But here's the important part: this doesn't mean people in France are unfriendly. In fact, when visitors show respect for the culture, make an effort to communicate, and understand local customs, the experience can completely change. What may initially feel unwelcoming can quickly turn into a warm and memorable interaction. Japan. Japan is often described as one of the most polite and respectful countries in the world, and in many ways, that is absolutely true. However, for tourists, this strong sense of structure and cultural expectation can sometimes create a feeling of being an outsider. Japanese society operates on a system of unspoken rules and social etiquette that guide everyday behavior. From how people behave on public transport, to how they interact in restaurants, temples, and public spaces, there is a level of discipline and awareness that is deeply ingrained in the culture. For first-time visitors, these expectations can feel overwhelming, especially if they are not familiar with the customs. India. India is a country that offers an incredibly rich and diverse travel experience, but it is also one that can feel intense and overwhelming, especially for first-time visitors. The sheer scale of the country, its population, its cities, its cultures, can be difficult to process at first. From crowded streets and busy markets to different languages, traditions, and social environments, everything can feel very different from what many travelers are used to. For some tourists, this can create a sense of discomfort or confusion, especially if they are not prepared for the experience. It is a place where every region feels like a different world, where traditions are deeply rooted, and where the culture. Travelers who approach India with patience, curiosity, and an open mind often discover one of the most deeply meaningful travel experiences they will ever have. Venezuela. Venezuela is a country with natural beauty, but current economic and political challenges have made tourism difficult. Safety concerns and infrastructure issues can affect the travel experience. Not welcoming doesn't always mean people are unfriendly. In many cases, it reflects deeper factors like culture, history, or government policy. When you travel with awareness and respect, your experience can completely change. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful travel insights. And now I want to hear from you. Which country surprised you the most? And which one would you still visit? Let me know in the comments below.